Has homelessness changed is the question of our show today. And this is Jay Fidell. Welcome to ThinkTech Talks in the 1 to 2 block here in our studio in Pioneer Plaza. And I have with me a special guest who's been on our show before and who we enjoyed talking with very much, a year or two ago?
Yes.
Christie MacPherson, who's the program manager for Family Promise. And if you don't know about Family Promise, we need to tell you about that. It's an interfaith nonprofit that deals with homeless people, families that are homeless.
Yes, families.
So, Christy, you do very important work, and I appreciated that the last time we spoke, and you're still doing it. Good for you.
I am. It's my calling.
Tell us about your calling.
Well, I never really thought I'd be working with homeless families if this was 10 years ago, but I've been a social worker for 20 years almost.
I never met a social worker I didn't like. I told you that the last time.
I was like, yay. But no, there's so many of us out there, and we're all doing different things, but what drew me to working with the homeless and with Family Promise is that I belong to Church of the Crossroads, and my father was the minister at the time, and we were the first.
Okay.
Yeah, we were the first.
That was a wonderful time. The Church of the Crossroads.
It was pretty radical.
Yeah. Well, yeah, back in the 70s.
Yeah, the 60s with
60s
Vietnam.
Too.
Yes, definitely.
But it was an important institution.
Yeah, it was.
It opened our eyes.
It was.
Yeah. Okay. That connects it for me.
Yeah. So we actually were the first congregation to sign on to Family Promise back in 2006, or maybe it was earlier. But we first opened our doors in 2006 in March, and then I joined the staff about 2 months later.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been great ever since, and we've served over 1,000 people and helped them get housing. So
I want to go into the specifics on that. But before I do, though, I want to tell our audience about the picture that we're using behind us. That's a picture about, maybe a year or two old. It's a picture of a homeless area behind Pearl City High School. It was in the newspaper. It came up right away on Google. It is a shocking picture. There was nobody left there. I think they all scattered when the police came and the authorities came to deal with the area, but it was just hard to look at this picture. This was a picture of where homeless families went in Pearl City, and it was just behind the high school. Mm-hmm. And the high school kids could see this.
Yeah.
It was a blight, but it was more than a blight. It reflected a social blight in our community, mm-hmm. which is why ThinkTech wants to cover this, Christy. It strikes me that there are periodic articles about it in the media,
right.
But it's not a constant thread, and it's like you cover some news juncture,
right,
and then you forget about it.
Yeah.
And it's not solved. Mm-hmm. I'll ask you this, but I can't think of anything that has happened to actually alleviate the problem. No politician who has made a promise has followed through. Sorry. Mm-hmm. And we still have the problem, and it is a shame on all of us. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It is a tragedy in our midst, and we don't do much or anything about it.
Yeah. I think, it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. So we are in our busy lives, and, we might come across a area where there's tents up, and you can see that people are clearly living there. But the fact of the matter is we don't always really reach out. We just go, oh, there's homeless families there, So, a lot of the other social service people in our field, we're all doing the same thing. We're trying to alleviate homelessness, but it's an uphill battle, because really what we need is affordable housing. And without that, it's very challenging getting families housing. Even though we're able to do it, it is a challenge. They're making minimum wage, $7.25 an hour. Tell me who can live on $7.25. And then we had a senator or senators that knocked down our minimum wage bill, so that's not going to happen anytime soon. So it's very, very challenging.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. If we don't have housing that people can afford, especially families, they're on the street. by definition. If they can't make enough money to pay for their housing, they don't have housing.
Right.
And unless the government, and it has to be the government is the organization that's supposed to take care of these social services. They can't rely on the churches for that. It doesn't really work, although they try hard.
We try.
You try hard, but that's not going to solve a
but
social problem this
absolutely.
deep and wide. And so, I mean, in Hawaii, where we have, $3 million condos looking down on people living in tents, it's a complete disconnect.
Yes.
And it continues. And we sweep them from one side of the boat to the other, but they're still in the community.
Yeah.
And they're still growing, as far as I know.
Yes, they are.
So
and they're not going anywhere.
They're not going anywhere. They're being pushed or hiding from sight, but they're still here. They're still with us, and they're still a tragedy.
Yes.
I can't say how I feel about this. So the question, the operative question is, has homelessness changed? And I want to investigate with you the sea changes around it, say in the last 2 years since we spent time before. What have you seen happen? Are there more homeless? Are they living a different quality of life? Better, worse, maybe? Is the government responding in any different way than it was, and how? Okay?
I think, I got into this field 7 years ago, and at that time, we started with a lot of families who were born and raised here. And then we've seen an influx of Micronesian families from Chuuk and Marshall Islands and Ponape. And, we've seen a lot of new families coming in. And there's been a lot of, struggle because it's a lack of resources. So you have more people coming and the lack of resources. So your numbers are growing exponentially. And, everyone deserves a place to live. It doesn't matter where you're from. You still deserve a place to live. And, there's been a lot of controversy around who should get housing first because, it's like our own people that were born here or people who are coming in. But the bottom line is the U.S., we actually owe people housing because of what we did in the 50s. We bombed their islands, and I get really defensive about that because I work with a lot of Chuukese families and Marshallese families, and I know it's hard with any new culture coming in. It's like that acculturation, but it's a right. It's a basic human right to have housing. And so I believe the government needs to do whatever they can to create more public housing or more affordable housing.
Yeah. Well, it shouldn't be a priority thing where you get it first, you get it last. It should be a full tilt boogie.
Yes.
Something for everybody right now. Let's go out and build those houses. Let's bring them in modules, from the Pacific Northwest, and put them together. It doesn't have to be fancy, but it has to be a house. I don't know why we don't do that. I do not know why we don't do that.
Well, they're looking into. I was participating in the Homeless Awareness Working Group. Basically, they're trying to look at alternative ways to create housing. So
how long they've been looking?
For about maybe 4 or 5 months now.
Okay.
So we're finally catching up with things, Jay. But really, it's been a long process, and I guess for me, it's like we're over here working in the trenches doing what we need to do. So the only people who can we can't build affordable housing. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't have the money to do it. So we have to look to our government and to private contractors and make laws, make sure it sticks, that they actually do have to provide affordable housing in so many of their units.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling that's not going to happen.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's talk in Kaka'ako about affordable housing for $120,000.
What's affordable, though?
I mean, come on.
Yeah,
affordable
is $800.
Minimum wage affordable housing.
Right. I mean, affordable to one is not affordable to another.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
So is the number of people who are on the beach increasing?
Actually, I think I know on the Leeward Coast they did a huge sweep a few years ago, and I think there are still a lot of families out there, but it has decreased. I think because they're trying to get them into shelters, so they're trying to provide services for them. I'm not an expert on the Leeward Coast because I work in town and on the windward side, but I do think that has decreased on the beaches. But if you go to Waimanalo, still a lot of families living out there in the tents and in their cars. You know, it's like you don't even see the families that are staying with family and overcrowded or staying in their cars. You know, they're all scattered all over the place. You
So
know?
homeless doesn't necessarily mean the guy's on the beach physically.
Yeah, no, and
It's
that's what
living in
people
cars,
envision, yes.
living in family in a kind of, one-room operation.
Yes.
Going round, trying to find a place every night.
Yep.
That's homeless.
Yep, that's
It comes
homeless.
in many shapes.
It sure does, and those are the families we bring into our program. They, I mean, if you can imagine 2 adults sitting in the front and 3 in the back trying to sleep overnight in their car, it's just not a way to live, you know?
Hard.
Yeah.
What about school? These kids going to school? I mean, the picture behind us is, a homeless community. Yes, that's kind of an oxymoron, but a homeless community where the kids in that area were actually going to the school 100 yards away. Is that still happening?
Yes, it is. It's still happening.
How do
Yeah.
they deal with, how do they deal with being homeless and going to school in a school where everyone else has a home? That must be a horrible division, in social division between those kids, no?
Yeah, children are very resilient, and I think the children in our program, if they're not in school when they first enter our program, we get them into school immediately.
Sure.
But most of them are in a school, and it's very confidential. So the staff, the teachers, and the office, the administrators, they definitely keep that in confidence. So the other students, fortunately, don't really know that they're homeless.
Good thing. Otherwise, I think they'd be pushed back somehow.
Yeah, it would be, the cause for bullying and
Yeah.
all these other types of things that children experience. And so they do it very well. I really appreciate the DOE and the homeless liaison. I'm sorry. They have homeless liaisons in different districts. In the DOE. And I have worked really well with them, and they've been wonderful. And they really do bend over backwards to try and, assist and support the homeless children.
Well, otherwise, these kids are in space.
Oh, yeah.
If they're homeless and not in school, the world has stopped for them.
Yeah.
Suspended. Their lives are trashed, really.
Yeah.
And how can they return to productive society? They become second generation homeless.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Yeah, a lot of times they do, especially if their parents are not willing to take that extra step and get out of their comfort zone and go into a shelter so they can go into something else.
Yeah.
It does require them to kind of make some changes in their lifestyles in order. That's the sad thing, it's like they know that they need to do this in order to get this, but oftentimes there's that fear of the unknown, and so they'd rather stay in their tents rather than go into a shelter.
Well, I want to talk to you about the shelters right after this break. That's Christie MacPherson. She's a program manager of Family Promise, which is an interfaith nonprofit that helps find homes for families that are homeless. This is ThinkTech. I'm Jay Fidell. Here we are on the Thursday 1 to 2 block. We're talking about how homelessness has changed. We'll be right back. Aloha, I'm Jay Fidell, founder of ThinkTech Hawaii. We are a digital media nonprofit that covers things that matter to tech, energy, diversification, globalism, and progress for our state, the state of Hawaii. We broadcast on community television and on Oceanic Cable Channel 16. We also stream our shows and interviews live on the internet as both radio and video, and of course we post them here on YouTube. We collaborate with the Hawaii Venture Capital Association to present monthly luncheon programs on subjects of interest to the business community, and we write for the Honolulu Star Advertiser. ThinkTech works hard to raise public awareness in Hawaii. Check out our website, thinktechhawaii.com, and come to our YouTube channel, ThinkTech Hawaii. We hope you support our mission and that you like our work. I'm Jay Fidell. Mahalo. We're back. We're live. We're at ThinkTech here on Thursday in the 1 to 2 block, talking about how homelessness has changed with Christie MacPherson, program manager of Family Promise, an interfaith nonprofit which helps families that are homeless find homes. So before the break, we were just about to talk to the shelters. And tell us about the shelters. Where are they? What are they like? And what I'm really after is, how is life in the shelters?
Well, I know our families, we have a very small program. You know, I know IHS is much larger, and there's many other shelters on the leeward side especially. But for our families, when the children come into our program, they really, you see them change right before your eyes. They become more centered and less anxious and less angry. And I think that's all. A lot of it is due to our volunteers because they stay at congregations overnight. So we have a
That's
day
the first
center.
step.
That's the
first night is in a congregation
Yes,
somewhere.
yes. So they enter our program, and we have a place for them to settle in. And then at 5 o'clock, we take them to the congregation. And so they're able to get a nice meal, and they have a bed to sleep in.
This is in a church?
In a church or a temple. We have Buddhist, you know, we have Jewish, Temple Emmanuel. So we have several different congregations that host our families, and they stay there for a week at a time. So they have their own private area, and it just makes everything kind of more calm for them. You know, it's like they're over here struggling, trying to work full time, get their kids from school, drop them off, you know, and it gives them a place to just relax at night so they can regroup, you know, and just sort of decompress from the day. When you're homeless, you don't have that ability to just decompress.
And you're in sanctuary.
Yeah, it's a sanctuary.
You know, you have a little territoriality in a sanctuary. That makes a big difference.
Right, big difference. And I just find that our children, by the time they leave our program, they're just so happy to get a place to live. And, you know, they're very thankful for all the volunteers that showed them so much love and compassion. You know, it's really a neat thing. That's why I'm in here. That's why I do this. You know, it's because it's not just me, it's everyone else. And, you know, on the other hand, staying in their car at night, where do they do their homework? I mean, they don't even have light, you know, to finish their homework. So it's just such a contrast. And
yeah.
They almost can't believe it when they get there into our program.
So now their Family Promise puts them in the church. You call it the congregation.
Right.
They stay there for a few days.
Yes.
But then and they try to acclimate back into I don't want to say civilization, but back into society.
Yeah.
An ordered life a little bit. And then now you do step 2. What is step 2?
Step 2 is first we get them there. Step 2 is the hard part.
They don't necessarily come easily, right?
No, they don't.
They resist.
Yes.
Let's talk about that for a minute. What happens?
I have a wait list right now. We have one of over 100 families, and it's amazing how many families will call, and they even come in for an intake, and then they go poof, and you don't know where they went. And I think it's that fear of, oh my gosh, I'm really going to have to change the way I'm doing things, and it scares them.
That people are going to make demands on them about changing, and they will not like the demands. They won't be able to meet the demands.
Right.
Somebody will be angry with them, punish them in some way.
Yeah, or just hold them accountable for their finances. That's the big part we do is we budget with our families, and they have to follow a budget. So they have a certain amount of, we collect pay stubs, bank balances, and we make sure that they stick to their budget because we provide everything for them through the donations of our volunteers. And so we're able to do that. So in return, I tell them, you better save your money. And I know I can be a little authoritarian when it comes to their budgets.
So
it is, and it's like, hey, you're fortunate, not that you're fortunate to be in your situation, but you are fortunate to be in this program. So make the most of it, you know? Don't just sit around and just let life happen to you. You got to make it happen. You're no different than any other family out there. I treat all families the same when it comes to that.
This is important as a human thing.
Yes.
So what about jobs? You help them get jobs?
We do. Most of our families actually are already working, so we give them first priority.
That's the point to step on.
Yes.
Most of these homeless people that you are dealing with are already working.
They're already
but
working.
not enough to pay the rent.
And you know, you should see these fathers, you know, say what you will, but they work hard, and you know they stay till 11 o'clock at night washing dishes at a restaurant. Their wife works at McDonald's full time. I mean, these are two working family parents, and they still can't make ends meet, you know, and it's just, you know, living wage is about $30 in Hawaii. $20 to $30 an
Per hour.
Yeah, so
You can't find jobs like
you
that.
can't, you know,
We
not
have
when
a huge economic disconnect.
we do.
And well, we're going to talk later about how to fix that on an economic level. But going to step 2 now. So you reacclimate them in the congregation for a few days.
Right.
Step 2.
Step 2 is we meet with them. I have students from the University of Hawaii School of Social Work. They do my work for me. No, I'm just kidding.
Of course.
But
That's what
they're
supposed
great.
to do.
I mean, they're wonderful, and it's a win-win situation, I hope. But they definitely, they meet with our families once a week at least. We always see them, you know, so it's that constant, did you do this? Did you do that?
So
You
these
know.
are social work students.
It is. It's social work
So
students.
the School of Social Work is alive and well.
Yes, they are, and they send me students every year, and I'm so grateful because I'm a product of that school as well.
Okay,
So,
okay.
you know, I want to give back, and they give back to me. So it works out really
Sure.
well.
It trips
Yeah.
down the generations.
It does, and I've been real fortunate to have wonderful students. So they do all the case management, and I come in when I need to as the heavy if I have to
Well,
talk
but you're
to a
looking at their
family.
notes, you're going to make them brief you about what's happening in the family.
Yes,
And no two
definitely.
families are the same. Every
No,
family, every
no.
person is a different story. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's one thing we know as social workers. No one is the same. And they all have different histories. Some were into drugs, some were, you know, in domestic violence situations. I mean, you just have the whole gamut, you know. And so you have to treat each family individually and what motivates them to do what they do.
What kinds of stories? Have you got a story that you want to tell us about for a particular family?
Well, I have many stories. The best story, well, not the best, but one of the best that I can remember is I had a mother with a teenage, soon-to-be teenage son, and I actually had to release her from the program because she started out collecting cans in Waikiki, and she was homeless, sleeping under the tree at Kapiolani Park with her son, brought her into the program, and she started using drugs again. So I had to release her. However, 2 years later, she called me and said, you know what, I'm really ready. I'm tired of this life. You know, not even 2 years after that. It was like 6 months after that. And she said, I really want to thank you for kicking me out of the program. And I said, well, it was my pleasure. But she, you know, we still talk, and she still updates me even years later. And she's such a success story. I mean, she went into a drug treatment program with her son, and then she ended up working full-time. Her son is doing excellent. He's a tennis star. I mean, he's gotten scholarships to go to the mainland for tennis, and she's in school. I mean, it just shows you that if you hold someone accountable and you do tough love, things can happen. And that's what I do every day. I just really try and look at what can this person do, you know, and how do I need to get there with them, you know, and that's what I do.
It's a great challenge
It is.
for you. I mean,
is.
intellectually and socially and
Yeah.
professionally as a social worker. But it strikes me that it must take something out of you. I mean, an ordinary person, untrained, would have a lot of trouble doing what you're doing, and
Right.
and especially your family, you know, which I'm sure it had very vital discussions around the dinner table.
Well, I'm a single mom and I have 2 boys, so I always raise them to, I mean, they're still young, they're 8 and 10, but I raise them to know that, hey, you're lucky to have a bed to sleep on tonight,
Right.
you know, and don't ever take that for granted.
Right.
And, you know, and my boys, they play with the other kids at the program, especially when they're off from school, and my son bosses them all around. But, you know, I just want to expose them to all kinds of things, you know, all kinds of people, and just realize how fortunate they are, because that's something I think that's lacking in society today is just being appreciative of what you have.
Right. Because
And
once you're
also,
appreciative,
yes.
then you can understand the other guy better.
Yes, and you can be more giving. You know, I think we live in such a me, selfies, you know, on the Facebook, and everyone's just all about them. And this is really, I think that's why we have a lot of volunteers, because they're looking for something meaningful to do with their lives, and it's the perfect way.
Before we get to the volunteers, and I do want to get to the volunteers, I want to talk about you. So here you are faced with really sad stories most of the time. Stories of recidivism, stories of crime and drugs and bad lives, you know. I'm sure that the exception is the great success and the rule is a struggle. So what does that do for you, Christie?
Well, I think it actually motivates me. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but I relish in the wonderful things, but I also feel motivated more than ever to not just work with families on an individual level, but to do more policy type things. You know, I was a community organizer for a few years, and before I had kids, it's a nonstop job. But yeah, you know, I've always been involved in faith action for community equity. I've always been a real fighter for people's rights and just for getting what they need in society. And so I think it just it fuels me to know that, hey, there's something that needs to be done. And, you know, there are hard days. I mean, I know all social workers or anyone who's in the helping profession, nurses, doctors, I mean, you all have that feeling of, you know, there's days when it's really rough. But then something wonderful happens to kind of just give you a little more, you know, pep in your step. So
Do you need it? I mean, and we'll do this when we come back from a break, but my question is, you know, as you get older and your career sort of reveals itself and your, you know, connection with the society, your wisdom that you have from all the experiences change you and makes you find, you know, that your own evolving role. I wonder if you're always going to be doing this or something else will. Do you think something else will appear in the same area, on the same issues?
Yeah.
But let's take a break and you can think about that and I'll come back. That's Christie MacPherson, a very admirable person who's the program manager of Family Promise, which is an interfaith nonprofit. And she's been there for a while now. She continues to do this. And Family Promise finds families that are homeless and finds homes for them. This is ThinkTech Talks. I'm Jay Fidell. Here we are on Thursday in the 1 to 2 block in Pioneer Plaza, broadcasting on the issue of how has homelessness changed. We'll be right back.
I'm Bill Spencer, president of the Hawaii Venture Capital Association. We do monthly luncheon programs with ThinkTech about things that matter to Hawaii entrepreneurs, investors, and business service providers. So join us on the fourth Thursday of every month at the Plaza Club. For information about upcoming events or to join our mailing list, visit hvca.org. See you there.
We're back. We're live. We're with Christie MacPherson, program manager of Family Promise, an interfaith nonprofit here in Hawaii that finds homeless families and provides homes for them. This is ThinkTech Talks. I'm Jay Fidell. Today we're on the Thursday 1 to 2 block. We're talking about how homelessness has changed. Christie, you know, the question I left you with was, how do you see your own career evolving? I mean, you're really, aside from the fact that students are helping you, you're rolling up your sleeves.
Yeah.
You're in the trenches. Yeah. You're seeing this close up, you know, with the roar of the grease paint and the smell of the crowd, or whatever they say. And how is it? And you know, you're young. How do you see your own career unfolding in this area?
Well, you know, I mean, I'm probably going to work till the day I die. So, I mean, it's just, I mean, I could be working with a homeless family or a mentally ill person, individual, or a woman getting off of using drugs, or, I mean, it could be anything, but I can't really see myself doing anything else. And one thing I love about my job is I get to work with mothers being a single mom myself, I really can relate to them, and so I'm kind of like their cheerleader, and yet I tell them, like, I know what you need to do, and if you don't do it, you won't be successful, and if you do, you will, because I already know what they need to do, and it's like I just tell it like it is, and I don't sugarcoat anything. I want them to just know the reality of it. I do reality therapy with anyone, even with my friends, I mean.
Well, I was going to ask you that.
Yeah.
It's so important that you have the reality test and you create a reality test for these people that you're working with. But it sounds to me like, that's not a part-time thing. It has to be full-time for you.
Oh, yeah, it's full-time.
You have to be that way with everybody.
It just comes naturally. I mean, I've been, I guess I'm just a very open person. I know a lot of social workers are. We're just
that's
open
why I
to.
like social work.
Yeah, it's like we're open to life, and whatever comes our way, we try and problem solve, and we're just accepting of everyone. I mean, there's no one that I really don't like. I mean, even if they might be annoying sometimes.
But there's value in every human being. That's the principle of social work.
Yes,
isn't it?
there is, and I think we'd have a better world if everybody just learn to just know that it's not always about you. Someone's behavior is not always directed at you, and it's not made to, hurt you. It might just be about them, and I think that's what helps us cope.
Yeah. Well, tell me about your students now, and the volunteers.
Yeah.
I guess the students are the volunteers. But
They are.
I want to know why they come to you, why they do this. I want to know what kind of, what experience they have, and how they may be affected and transformed by it.
I think so. I mean, I have some students that come in pretty experienced. I had a student last year who was, she was the head of the RN. I mean, she was an RN for years, and she had way more experience than me. But, I think it's a different kind of role that you're playing as a student. And I definitely know that when they leave Family Promise, they come out more confident and able to handle any situation with their families because they have that experience with us.
The reality test, the honesty, is straightforward.
Yes, and they learn to be assertive, and that's the thing you have to be in this field. You can't just just be nice all the time. Everyone thinks social workers are just supposed to be nice and be caring and supportive. No,
hard,
you
tough
have
love,
to be tough too. Yeah, it's like
Vinnie Marino, remember him, Vinnie Marino?
Barbarino?
No, Vinnie Marino.
Sorry.
That was something
I'm
else.
thinking of
Vinnie
Welcome
Marino,
Back, Kotter.
he established a drug rehabilitation organization. I can't think of the name right now, but it's very popular. And that was his mantra.
On this island?
Yeah,
Victory Ohana, was it? Or
it'll come back to me.
Yeah.
It was all about tough love.
Right.
And if you played by the rules were calculated to help you. Then you would be helped. If you didn't play by the rules, you'd be on the street again.
Yes.
And it was the same thing.
Yeah.
And that works. I guess that's the history of it. So these social volunteers, I wanted to ask you. So suppose I felt, and I do actually feel pretty strongly about this subject, and I wanted to get in and see what part of me, as a potential social worker, somebody who appreciates the art and science of it, I came to you and I said, I'd like to help. What would happen? How would that process work?
Well, what we try and do with people who are interested is try and find what their interests are. Our organization has different facets that you could get involved with. I think the volunteers from our congregations, they're already sort of, they're in there already, so it's more a matter of signing them up to do things like cook the meals or sleep overnight or, help to open up the congregation. And I mean, there's different things that they can do.
Yeah.
But then there's other volunteers that want to help us with our database or want to read to the kids after school or want to help us clean up our place. I mean, there's just room for everyone to do things or provide coverage for our centers at night, during the day. So there's several ways.
Are you understaffed or overstaffed or what with volunteers? Do you have as many as you want?
Oh, we'd love more. What we would love is more or more congregations to be host congregations. So, we want to expand and have more people to host our families so we could serve more families down the road. We do have quite a few volunteers, but we can always use more.
Yeah, okay. Well, it sounds like a very gratifying experience. So if there's anybody out there who would like to experience, what Christie MacPherson experiences, this is a great thing for your life. If your life has maybe a little emptiness, and this is a way to fill it up. But you only talk to families. What's that about? Why only families? Surely there's a lot of other homeless people out there.
There are. We focus on families because that's, Family Promise is a national organization, and it does focus on children. It's really more about the children, but they have parents. So in order to get to the child, you have to get to the parents.
One touches the other.
Yes,
for sure.
yes, definitely. But there are other, like IHS, Next Step Shelter, the Civic Center out in Waianae, they definitely serve singles. So we just focus on a certain population, and because we're small and we have limited resources, we do have to find families that are going to move in and move out quickly. We don't want families that are going to be there for a year.
Because then they draw down your resources.
Yes, and it's just, that's not the kind of program we are.
Yeah.
And I think it would turn off our volunteers if they knew that we're going to have them for a whole year.
Right.
Rather than, oh, this is a new family, yay, what happened to the other one? Oh, they got housing, great.
Right.
So that definitely helps to sort of motivate people to get involved as well, because they know it's like we're serving more families because they're moving out quickly. So
it's a dynamic.
It is a
So you can be excited about actually achieving this process with someone.
Yes, and you can see the results.
Yeah, there's gratification in that. How are you funded?
We're funded through the state, through other foundations that have been very generous, individual donors. So we have had CDBG funds at one time.
What does that mean?
Community development block grants, but it's mostly through donors and foundations. That's how we get funded.
So if I wanted to make a contribution, how would I do that?
Just send it to us.
Real simple.
Yeah, Family Promise. We're on the website.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, now I want to get to something more serious. We have 10 minutes or so left, and I guess I'll tell you what it is. We'll take a break. We'll come back and we'll discuss it. What are the things that are holding us back in terms of dealing with this problem in our community? And then, of course, what can we do about that, right? This is the macro, this is the policy level, but I feel that this is something you must think about all the time, so I want to explore it with you. That's Christie MacPherson, Program Manager of Family Promise, an interfaith, a national interfaith nonprofit that finds homeless families and finds homes for them. And this is ThinkTech Talks. We're talking about how the homeless have changed in Hawaii here in the Thursday 1 to 2 block. We'll be right back after this break.
Aloha, I'm Nicole Horry for ThinkTech. For nearly half a century, the Hawaii Foreign Trade Zone No. 9 has brought the benefits of the Foreign Trade Zone program to Hawaii businesses and entrepreneurs. DBET, the Department of Business, Economic Development and Tourism, operates Hawaii's Foreign Trade Zone program to encourage international business and economic development. The Foreign Trade Zone's mission is to increase the amount of international trading activity in Hawaii, thereby providing employment opportunities for the residents of our island state. For more information, see ftz9.org. I'm Nicole Horry. Mahalo.
We're back, we're live, we're ThinkTech, talking with Christie MacPherson, Program Manager for Family Promise, which is a national interfaith nonprofit which helps homeless families find homes. And if you're wondering about the photo behind us, it is a photo of a homeless area that was, I don't think it's there anymore, that was behind Pearl City High School a couple of years ago. That was in the newspaper, and there were many families living there, and it's a commentary, it's a very graphic commentary on how life is as well. This was within the view of the high school. How embarrassing for everyone. and for us, even if we couldn't see it. We should be embarrassed by this. This is a photograph calculated to embarrass. I mean, I put it there to embarrass everyone. Anyway, short story. I served on the neighborhood board, and I always raised this issue. Let's talk about what we can do for the homeless. And there were some interesting comments made. One woman said, "I know what we can do for the homeless. Call the police. They're on my lawn. They come and they sit on the ledge outside my house. I want them out of here. Let's have the police take them away somewhere." And I thought that was an interesting approach. The other one said, how about forfeiting their cars because they're living in their cars, and that we don't want them to live in their cars, so just take the car away.
That's a great one.
That's a great one. I mean, but my point only, of course, it went nowhere, all of it, except the comment at the end of the day is that the neighborhood board didn't do anything about homelessness. They shunned it. And they shunned the homeless. And I think there's a fair amount of ignorance in the community and a sort of non-responsive irresponsibility about dealing with a problem that should affect us all. This is our society, and it's a blemish in our society. We have to do something. So I like your comments on that. What are the challenges in fixing this problem, and what are the solutions? Not easy.
No, it's not easy. I think, part of, in the last 10 years, there's been so much talk about where do we put them? Where do we get them out of sight so that they're not hurting anyone or, so they're not bothering anyone. Rather than looking at that, I'd rather them say, what do we need to do to get these families or individuals off of the street? Instead of just putting them somewhere else, and even with shelters, you can put someone in a shelter for so long, but after that, it's like, where do they go? And if they have nowhere to go, they're going to stay there. So affordable housing, I mean, I know we all agree, people that do the same work that I do, we all agree that you need more affordable housing. And so that's one thing people can do.
So in a word then, the government should either incentivize or write a check to build affordable housing for the homeless.
Yes.
Housing that is reasonable housing, that's not expensive, where they can live for as long as they want.
Yes.
It's a real community, a real house.
Yes.
And if they can find a better house, more expensive later, if they make more money, fine. But this is a place where they'll be assured that they can live cheap.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
and I mean, I think they should give priority to people who receive SSI or who come from a domestic violence. I know they do give preference to them in public
I
housing.
mean, putting them into the housing.
Yes,
Are you talking about public housing such as we have on Vineyard here, or something else?
Well, there's all kinds of housing. Public housing, the wait list at one point, I'm not sure about now, but it was 7 to 10 years. And
For
that
public
hurts.
housing?
Yes. And I know that they've opened up a lot of units lately. I think it was a matter of renovating them. And I mean, I work really well with the staff there at the public housing. I don't deal with them as much as other like transitional housing or even landlords. We're trying to get them into, market rentals. But it all really, if you look at a societal issue, any issue, you have to go back to the root of it. So I know that's a huge undertaking. I mean, we're talking about changing people's income. That's the bottom line. So if individuals out there that are watching this would like to really do something, help someone get a job, help them find an apartment that's affordable or rent out an apartment, to someone who might not have the best credit. Credit is a huge issue for our families. They don't have good credit. Who does? I mean, nowadays you got credit card bills that are sky high, and there are things we can do as individuals, but I'm almost wondering how many people are going to Washington and saying, we need HUD money or whatever it is to get affordable housing here.
We here in Hawaii.
We in Hawaii are taking on a huge, we are housing a lot of people from Micronesia. And so they need housing. We need more places to have them live. So someone's got to do something. I mean, and it can't be us. It has to be people who really can make things happen.
So if Governor Abercrombie or his successor were right there, what would you tell them?
I'd say go talk to Washington. You know, I mean.
But he does talk to
Well,
Washington.
he does. But I mean, there's so many things to ask for.
But you know what this also suggested? Our delegation, there are 4 of them in Congress. They could talk to Washington.
Yes, definitely. I mean, look at rail. We had to have Senator Inouye do that, you know, for us. There's a lot of different things to ask for, but you have to look at people's rights as individuals. Their right to a home, you know, it's in our Constitution.
Yeah. Well, I agree, of course, but I would add only that this is something that is, it's a blemish on the community. It's a moral blemish on the community if we allow this to happen and not do anything about it. It's a shame on all of us.
It is.
On our society, and how can we claim to be a moral community if we let this happen right here in front of us? So, you know, one thing, you know, that kind of applies to a lot of, you know, say political issues, is that it's coming election time.
Yeah.
And people, you know, they'll wind up at coffees, and they'll wind up at fundraisers by various, you know, campaigns of both in the delegation and in the local legislature and in the gubernatorial races coming up. And it strikes me that if you care about this issue, and you should care, then you have the opportunity in an election year to be sure it's a campaign issue.
Yes.
And then you vote for the candidate who can convince you that he really means it.
Yes, yes, I would appreciate that. I know many of us would. I mean, you know, I think there's so many issues out there on the table. Same-sex marriage, of course, it's been in the media all week. You know, there's so many things to advocate for or to lobby for, but you have to look at people's, just their bodies. You know, we got to start with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Food, housing, clothing. I mean, let's start with that. You know, I just, it's really crazy to me that we're focused on whether or not 2 men can get married, rather than the fact that someone's out there and doesn't have a home to live in. I mean, really, where are our priorities? You know, I mean, I know they're all important, but you got to look at people that are sleeping in the worst conditions right now. And how can you just stand by and let that happen as a society? I don't know. I know it happens, and it happens in our nation. It happens in every state. But instead of voting for people because of you agree with them on something or not, let's look at what are they really going to bring to the table? What are they going to do as a group, as a legislative body? You know, and you put all these people who care about housing in the legislature, you're going to get some movement. You're going to get some action. I mean, Susie Chun Oakland's been a real strong supporter of this issue, and I appreciate that. And there's others too that are starting, you know, Carl Rhodes, and there's other legislators that I have really grown to appreciate over the years because of their work, you know, but there's still so many more.
Christie MacPherson touches my heart. Program Manager of Family Promise, an interfaith nonprofit, a national interfaith nonprofit helping homeless families. This is ThinkTech Talks. In the Thursday 1 to 2 block, we've been talking about how homelessness has changed in Hawaii. We really appreciate the discussion.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Christie. We'll be right back with, let's see, we'll be right back with Global Connections coming up in a few minutes. Aloha.